Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into Ralph Waldo Trine's In Tune with the Infinite, published back in 1897.
Wow.
But still incredibly relevant today. It's
Wow.
really one of those books that I find myself going back to time and time again.
Yeah, it really is a classic. And, it's amazing how Trine's insights into things like human potential and the power of thought, they really seem to stand the test of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I'm excited to explore with you today. How do we actually tap into that infinite potential? How do we start to understand the power of thought? And how can we align ourselves with those universal laws that Trine talks about?
It's almost like he lays out a blueprint for personal power and success, even if you wouldn't consider yourself particularly spiritual.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that always stands out to me is that lotus pond analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a vivid way to illustrate our connection to this infinite source.
Oh, yeah. The way he describes the pond, constantly replenished by that reservoir of pure water. It's such a powerful image of how we're all connected to this source of limitless potential, really.
Yeah, and it's not just about passively receiving this flow.
Right.
Trine seems to emphasize that we actually have a role to play in maintaining that connection.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. He talks about how the caretaker of the pond can actually shut off the flow of that water, which, leads to stagnation and decay. And this is where things get really interesting. Our thoughts and beliefs can act like that caretaker.
Right.
Either opening us up to that infinite flow or blocking it completely.
It's so powerful. That's what I find so powerful about his work.
Mm.
He's basically saying our thoughts have this incredible power to shape our reality.
Yeah.
And it's not just some new age concept. He was writing about this over 100 years ago.
I know, it's amazing. And you see it echoed today in so many different fields, the law of attraction manifestation, even modern psychology.
Yeah.
It all points to that same power of the mind to actually create
Right.
our experiences. Trine called it thought as a force, and he gives some pretty compelling examples.
Like what? What were some of the examples that resonated with you?
Well, he talks about how, if you're constantly worrying about being poor, that can actually attract poverty into your life.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like we're sending out this signal to the universe, and it's responding by giving us more of what we're focusing on.
That's a little scary, but also makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's not about denying the existence of negative experiences,
Right.
but about becoming aware of how our thoughts and beliefs might be contributing to them. And try and give some practical advice on how to start shifting those patterns.
So if fear and negativity sort of block us off from this infinite source, what does Trine say actually opens us up to it?
Well, that's where the power of love comes in. Trine dedicates a whole section to this, and it's a really beautiful exploration of the topic. He talks about love as this transformative force that opens the channels for that divine flow.
So it's like love is the key that unlocks that gate, allowing that pure, life-giving energy to flow back into the pond.
Precisely. And he emphasizes that it's not just romantic love that he's talking about. It's a broader kind of love that encompasses compassion and kindness and, this deep connection to all beings.
That makes me think about how Trine defines success, too. It's not just about material wealth or achievement. It's about cultivating a life that's filled with love and purpose.
That's a really important distinction. He argues that true success comes from aligning our actions with this infinite power that's within us. He calls it the secret of power, and it's something that applies to everything we do, our relationships, our work, our creative pursuits.
I love that quote from the book. The great things in life are never done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. It's about that beautiful collaboration between our efforts and this infinite source of wisdom and power that's always available to us.
It's beautiful. And he gives these really interesting examples of this principle in action, like the story of Mr. Sankey singing the 90 and 9 for the first time.
Oh, right. I remember that. He described it as this incredible outpouring of inspiration that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself, almost like he was channeling a higher source.
Exactly. And that's the kind of power that I think becomes available to us when we align our outer efforts with this inner source of wisdom and inspiration. It's about becoming a conduit for something much greater than ourselves.
Wow, that's powerful. But it also makes me wonder about those things that we might think we're stuck with.
Like?
Hereditary influences, for example.
Right.
If some of our traits are hardwired,
right,
how much control do we really have?
That's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people grapple with. But Trine's perspective is that we're not bound by our genes.
Really?
He believed that by recognizing our divine nature, we can actually overcome any of those limiting tendencies.
So it's not about denying our inheritance, but about tapping into this power that can actually transform us.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our true nature is not limited by our physical inheritance. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that spiritual essence actually has the power to override any perceived limitations.
That's a hopeful message.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about how fear plays into all of this.
Yeah.
Fear just seems so pervasive in our modern world. Trine mentions fear of poverty, fear of failure. It's like we're surrounded by it.
Oh, he was definitely aware of how debilitating fear can be. And he offers a powerful antidote to that fear. He talks about faith and courage as the antidotes to fear, allowing us to reclaim our power and attract success.
So it's not about denying the existence of fear, but about cultivating faith and courage as more powerful forces.
Precisely. He argues that fear closes us off from that infinite source of power, while faith and courage open us up to it.
It makes me think about how, courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting in spite of fear. Yeah. Trusting that we have that inner strength to face those challenges.
That's a great way to put it. It's about trusting that we're not alone, that we have access to a power greater than ourselves that can support us through those difficult times.
Speaking of a power greater than ourselves, Trine also touches on the idea of a universal religion.
Yes.
It's just a brief mention in the book, but it really piqued my curiosity. Yeah. What was he getting at there?
Well, what's fascinating is that he wasn't advocating for any specific religion or dogma.
Okay.
He believed in a universal religion underpinned by a shared recognition of that infinite spirit within each of us.
So it's more about recognizing our shared connection to the divine, regardless of what specific beliefs we hold.
Exactly. He emphasized open-mindedness and, living in accordance with the truth, rather than clinging to rigid doctrines or trying to convert others to our way of thinking.
It's like he's saying true religion is less about outward rituals and more about that inner experience of connection to something greater than ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it. He believed that the true kingdom of heaven is found within, not in any external institution or belief system. And this brings us back to one of his central messages, the importance of realizing the kingdom of heaven within ourselves.
Now, this idea of finding the kingdom within might sound a bit abstract to some people.
Right.
What does it actually mean in practical terms?
It's about recognizing that we are not separate from that infinite source of wisdom, peace, and abundance. It's about understanding that we actually already have all the resources we need within ourselves.
So it's not about looking outside of ourselves for fulfillment, but about tapping into that infinite wellspring of potential that already exists within us.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we're already complete and whole, that we already have everything we need to live a fulfilling and meaningful life.
It's amazing how relevant Trine's ideas are to our modern lives. We're so bombarded with messages that tell us we need to acquire more, achieve more, be more.
I know.
But Trine reminds us that true abundance comes from recognizing that infinite potential that already exists within us.
It's such an important reminder, and that recognition is really the key to unlocking a life of peace, joy, and fulfillment. It's about shifting our focus from those external achievements to that inner transformation.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored Trine's ideas about tapping into our infinite potential, the power of thought, the transformative power of love, the importance of faith and courage, the idea of a universal religion, and the realization of the kingdom within. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. It really has. Trine's work offers such a profound and timeless message that continues to resonate over a century later.
And even though this deep dive has only scratched the surface of his work, it's already given us so much to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It raises some pretty important questions for all of us.
Like, if we truly are connected to an infinite source of power and wisdom, what untapped potential might we be overlooking in our own lives?
It really is, and it makes you think about the responsibility that comes with this knowledge, If we have the power to shape our reality with our thoughts, then we also have the responsibility to use that power wisely.
Absolutely. It's like we're given this incredible gift, this access to infinite potential.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to cultivate it and use it for good.
Absolutely. Trine talks about this in the context of overcoming fear. He argues that fear kind of closes us off from that infinite source,
right,
while faith and courage open us up to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just feels like fear is so deeply ingrained in our society.
It does. It can feel that way.
He recognized that for sure. And he provides some really practical advice for how to start overcoming fear. He talks about the importance of affirming our connection to this higher power, reminding ourselves that we're not alone and that we have that inner strength to face whatever challenges come our way.
And it's not about pretending that fear doesn't exist, right?
No.
It's about recognizing it and choosing to focus on faith and courage instead.
Exactly. He uses this wonderful phrase, the conquering power of a higher faith. It's about cultivating a belief in something greater than ourselves.
Right.
Something that can support us through those difficult times.
It resonates with me. It's like shifting our perspective from I can't to I can with help.
Yes. And that help is always available. It's like Trine is saying that the universe is actually conspiring to support us, to help us reach our full potential, but we have to be open to receiving that support.
That's a beautiful thought.
Right.
It reminds me of that lotus pond analogy again. If we allow fear to kind of shut off the flow of that life-giving water, the pond stagnates.
Right.
But if we open ourselves up to faith and courage, the water flows freely, bringing life and vitality.
Absolutely. And it's not just about our own individual growth either. Trine also talks about the interconnectedness of all beings and how our own individual transformation actually contributes to the collective upliftment of humanity.
That's what's so inspiring about his work. It's not just about self-improvement. It's about actually creating a more loving and compassionate world.
He talks about this in the context of what he calls a universal religion.
Right.
And remember, he wasn't promoting any specific religion or dogma.
No.
He wasn't. He envisioned a world where people from all backgrounds and beliefs could come together in a spirit of unity, recognizing that divine spark within each other. It's a beautiful vision, and it feels more relevant now than ever.
It does. Especially in a world that often feels so divided. It's like he's calling us to look beyond our differences and see our shared humanity.
And that's a powerful message for all of us, regardless of our spiritual beliefs or lack thereof. It's a call to cultivate love, compassion, and understanding, not just for ourselves, but for all beings.
When you were talking about that shared connection, it made me think about all the different ways that people tap into this infinite source. Through art, music, nature, service to others.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there are countless pathways leading to the same destination.
I love that. It speaks to the beauty and diversity of human experience. We each have our own unique way of connecting to something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
And all of those ways are valid and valuable.
That's important to remember. There's no one right way to do this. It's about finding what resonates with us, what helps us tap into that wellspring of wisdom and inspiration that's available to all of us.
Absolutely. And it's about being open to the possibility that there's always more to learn, always more to explore. Trine encourages us to never stop seeking, to never stop growing, to never stop expanding our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
And ultimately, that journey of exploration leads us back to ourselves, back to that realization of the kingdom within.
Exactly. It's about understanding that everything we're searching for, all the peace, joy, and fulfillment that we desire already exists within us.
Right.
We just have to remember how to access it.
Which brings us back to Trine's core message, right?
Yes.
It's not about becoming someone else or striving for some unattainable ideal. It's about awakening to the truth of who we are.
And that truth is that we are already complete and whole, that we are already connected to this infinite source of wisdom, love, and power.
It's like that lotus flower emerging from the muddy depths of the pond. Its beauty and perfection were always present, hidden within the seed.
That's beautiful. And it reminds me of another point that Trine makes. We're not meant to be solitary seekers on this journey. We're all interconnected, part of this grand tapestry of life.
And as we each tap into our own divine nature,
right,
we contribute to the collective upliftment of humanity.
Yeah.
It's like a ripple effect. One person's awakening can inspire countless others.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this work so important. It's not just about personal transformation.
No.
It's about creating a more enlightened world.
It's not just about our own individual growth, but about leaving the world a little bit better than we found it.
Exactly. And that's a legacy worth striving for.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what Trine has to offer, but it's already given me so much to think about.
Me too. And I think it's a testament to the power of his work that it continues to resonate so deeply with people over a century later.
Absolutely. And for all of you listening out there, if you're feeling inspired to explore these ideas further, I highly recommend picking up a copy of In Tune with the Infinite. It's a book that can truly change your life.
And that change begins with the simple but profound realization that you are already connected to an infinite source of power and wisdom. All you need to do is open yourself up to it.
That's such a powerful reminder. And I think it's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into Ralph Waldo Trine's In Tune with the Infinite.
It really is. It speaks to the timelessness of his message, I think. At its core, In Tune with the Infinite is about tapping into that universal truth that resides within each of us. It's a truth that transcends cultural boundaries and time itself.
And you know what strikes me as particularly powerful is that Trine doesn't present this as some kind of esoteric knowledge reserved for a select few. He truly believes that this connection to the infinite is accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. He emphasizes that it's not about, achieving some distant future state of enlightenment. It's about awakening to the reality of who we are right here, right now.
That reminds me of something you said earlier about how our thoughts and beliefs shape our reality.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could explore that a bit further.
Yeah.
How does Trine suggest we start shifting those patterns and cultivating more positive beliefs?
Well, that's a great question. And Trine offers some very practical guidance. He talks about the importance of consciously choosing our thoughts and focusing on what we want to create in our lives. He emphasizes the power of things like affirmations and visualization techniques to reprogram our subconscious minds.
So it's not just about positive thinking. It's about actively directing our thoughts and using them as tools to manifest the life we desire.
Precisely. And he also highlights the importance of surrounding ourselves with supportive influences, whether it's, through books, music, nature, or even the people we spend time with. It's essential to create an environment that nourishes our growth and reinforces those positive beliefs.
It's about cultivating that fertile ground for our lotus flower to blossom.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we actually have the power to choose the thoughts that we water and the beliefs that we cultivate.
This makes me think about the challenges and setbacks that we inevitably face in life.
Yeah.
Does Trine offer any guidance on how to navigate those difficult times while staying connected to that infinite source?
He does. He reminds us that, challenges are just an inherent part of life.
Yeah.
And they often serve as catalysts for growth. He encourages us to view them not as obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and evolve.
So it's about shifting our perspective on those challenges.
Yeah.
Seeing them not as punishments, but as stepping stones on our path.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the importance of leaning on that infinite source of strength and wisdom during those times. Reminding ourselves that we're never truly alone and that there's always a higher power supporting us even when we can't see it.
It's about remembering that we have access to an inner reservoir of resilience and strength that can carry us through any storm.
Exactly. And that reservoir is constantly being replenished by that infinite source that Trine talks about.
Right.
So even when we feel depleted or discouraged, we can always tap back into that wellspring of power and renewal.
This conversation has been so enriching. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of Trine's work and the profound implications it has for our lives.
Me too. It's been a privilege to explore these ideas with you, and I hope our listeners have found it equally insightful.
I think what resonates most with me is Trine's unwavering belief in human potential. He truly sees each of us as capable of achieving great things, not just in the material sense, but in terms of our spiritual growth and our ability to contribute to a more loving and enlightened world.
And that's the message I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive. It's a message of hope and empowerment and infinite possibility. It's a reminder that we're all capable of tapping into that divine spark within ourselves and using it to create a more beautiful and meaningful world.
And that's a perfect note to end on. So to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ralph Waldo Trine's In Tune with the Infinite. We hope you've been inspired to explore his work further and discover the incredible potential that resides within you.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep tuning into that infinite source of wisdom, love, and power that connects us all.